I haven't stopped listening to The Only Moment. It is like so good. And like, I always discover new songs, like Addicted, Sovereign. And there's always like a new line that comes through. It's like an album that rewards repeat listens,
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that like always like the purpose? Like when you're making an album, of course, right? Have it like deep and layered.
I don't know. I don't know what the purpose is, but I think the layers, the layers are definitely there on this one. Like, because I started recording it in 2021 and I started writing this album probably in 2016. Like, the odds of getting even goes all the way back to the earliest years I was living in Nashville, that song in particular. And then there's some that are more recent and were written in 2020 and 2021 leading up to recording it. And then Watching the Whole Sky Change was written in, I think, 2023 and recorded sort of right away.
Yeah.
And so it really like spans a lot of time. And so I think that the layers you're hearing or that you're finding are actually really there, like sand art or something. Because it's not, I think that's, to me, it's sort of the ironic thing with the title, like The Only Moment or something, is like, to me, like the only moment is this right now talking to you. Like I'm not anywhere else. I'm here.
Mindfulness.
Yeah. But like that album was like a collection of many only moments, over way more time than I've ever kind of gathered pieces than before. Yeah. Because I think there's such an idea of like, okay, now what is your new evolution as an artist? Like, what are you now in this moment? And like, what are the freshest songs that you have? Maybe they're the most relevant and quick, get them out there before they like aren't relevant to anyone anymore, or before they're boring to you. And for these songs, I've like re-met them many times over the years already. So I feel different about this album.
Wow. Okay, there's a couple things really. First of all, the mindfulness aspect. And it makes sense because whenever I am with you, in a room with you, or you're performing or something, or when you've been on the show, there is a sense of peace. And it is mindfulness. It's as simple as that. I have found the past couple of years that I'm trying to like search for it.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten a little better, but I still got ways to go. But like, with all the distractions and with the cell phone, that really is like, kills mindfulness.
Yes.
And all this stuff going on. How have you been able to kind of like kept yourself centered in that so well through? You do it almost better than anybody in the community, Maya.
Well, I think that it's probably just as hard for me as anybody else. It's such a practice. I mean, that song that you talked about, Addicted, was written during a pandemic, and I was just sitting on a couch at my house and like scrolling my phone, like looking for some answer on Instagram or something. Like maybe if I scroll long enough, I'll understand something about the situation of COVID and lockdown, and then just scrolling news articles and reading like, how are they handling it in Sweden, or how are they handling it in the UK? Like trying to, I don't know, just like searching like elsewhere, and suddenly this siren went by. We live pretty close to a hospital, and I like jumped like physically, and I looked outside and I realized it was dark out. But when I had sat down on the couch, it was daytime. And I was like, I've just been sitting here like lost in this abyss for hours. And that's sort of where some of the first images in that song Addicted come from. And like I wrote about, including like the siren and, those kinds of things. And like the sun went down while I was sitting there. And so I think songwriting is like my way to kind of practice mindfulness in a way, and almost like give myself give myself little flags or tags or reminders of like a certain moment in time. Like, even if it's a hard moment or a shameful moment or something that I want to change about myself or to grow out of, at least I know that, like, I will, like, maybe it would be nice to forget that, getting lost in our phones during the pandemic. But for me, that song still feels relevant in a different way now. Like, we're no longer in lockdown, but
yeah, no, it
still applies. So, and I think, and some people have asked me like, oh, is that someone? Songs are always like really about. They'll bring out whatever the listener is feeling too. And so I think for some people that song is about other kinds of addiction.
Absolutely.
And so that's like, I think, and also playing shows helps me with being present, because I have to put my phone down, and the audience, there's like an expectation to silence your phone and to be with everyone and at least the kind of shows I play. Totally. It's like more of a listening atmosphere, and people are kind of gathered for a 2-hour journey together of some sort. And so that's really nice. When I look at my fall tour schedule, it's like, wow, this is really busy. This is a lot of like logistics to figure out, getting from here to here. Mm-hmm. And then I pause and I think, wow, that's like a lot of evenings where I'm just going to be totally present with a bunch of other people. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that is
to know that, like, I get to do that. That's what I do when I go to a city. Like, I don't go to a museum or go to a park or something unless I have a lot of free time.
Right.
But what I do get to experience in each city is like the feeling of gathering with people who come together.
Yeah.
And that's really special.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. Yeah, it's like you really get into it with like the people's energies, like now on like a very deep level.
Yeah.
I love it, Maya. I do want to get to touring in a minute, but I mean, this is your 4th album in 6 years or something like that. I mean, you're going through a really prolific, is the word, prolific, like era, prolific time in your creative life. And you were just talking, I wrote this song in 2016 and then I recorded it in 2019. How do you keep track, Maya? Like, I'm sure that like you write songs almost every day or like a few times a week or whatever. It fascinates me because I'm not an artist. Like, do you have the Dropbox that is like, I was feeling this and this time? Like how do you know that the song of 2016 is appropriate for this one and not for the one that you're thinking about next year?
Yeah.
Like, it's such an interesting puzzle.
Yeah, it is a puzzle. I think I do use like Google Drive. Like, you can just put like a document there and like, label it, and
sure.
And I'll just have like pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of, sometimes like if I'm working on a song,
like working title.
Yeah, like maybe I'll even put like
whatever.
Like a working title of an entire album, or sometimes just like a theme or a concept or something, and I'll just start. And it's never lined up where that is ultimately the title,
of course.
But sometimes I'll just start gathering things kind of under that, almost like
like an anchor for your brain.
It's an anchor, yeah. Like, and then sort of like collecting pieces of things, but sometimes I'll go through voice memos on my phone and I'll find something like that just jumps out at me. I think it's like this process of like things jumping out over time, and then giving attention to the things that feel really like potent and exciting. And then there's so many unfinished songs I have, and so many finished songs that I just don't like feel a relationship with.
Oh wow.
That maybe they'll be right for somebody else to play. Like, if somebody's like, oh, I'm making a bluegrass record, do you have any songs for me? And so I sent 2 songs to my friend Bronwyn, the Bronwyn Keith Hines record. But they were songs that just hadn't really become a part of my recordings yet. Maybe they will in the future, but at the time it was just like, so I have some kind of songs around like that too. But I think all of them, it's like a very small percentage that actually gets released.
Sure.
Absolutely. Like that, or that even gets recorded. But there's a vault.
Plus, phase out when you start releasing the deluxe edition.
Yeah. Yeah.
for like $300 with like key finals. It's like, damn, that's a good one. And the sixth final.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of, it's like I'm sort of like skimming the top or something, or like skimming, not the surface, because I don't feel like it's like the surface songs that want the attention, but it just some songs I just kind of know more what, I don't know, I have more of a relationship with them. Absolutely. Odds of Getting Even, it took me for a while to understand that song.
Because every song that I've ever heard from you and also live, the common denominator is that it gives you chills and it gives you goosebumps.
Yeah.
It would be like,
I have to wait for that for myself first.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true.
The chills are kind of meh on this one, you know.
Yeah, like very small chills.
What's here?
No.
You know. That was the dog side. That's the one.
Yeah. Totally.
I love it, Maya. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And wow, you are such an incredible live artist. I mean, that's how you first came on Tour Radar when we moved to town. And you are about to hit a very intense fall campaign tour. You did a little bit in the spring, but the fall, I mean, you're going to hit almost every corner of this country.
Yeah, it's going to be busy.
The part that you're on stage is incredible, and we talked about that, right? And it's magic and that energy of Maya and the crowd. But tell me a little bit about how you take care of yourself. And I'm talking about every aspect. Your physical, your mental, because it's a lot of miles. I mean, when I travel to festivals, which is like 10% of what you do, I need to like just be in the right, all of it.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Like, do you stay in good beds? Is that important? Nutrition. Just take us a little bit to that world, like your drives, your long drives. Like, how do you how do you keep yourself together, Maya?
I have a couple boundaries. I can't really drive more than, like, the absolute limit is like 6 hours.
6 hours
in a day. So I'm always making sure that it's possible to get from point A to point B in under 6 hours. Or like if that's not possible, then we'll drive maybe like a half hour after the show or something, to get us a little closer.
Okay.
It's really best to only be in the car for 2 hours, but that's not always possible. Sometimes it is when things are really close. I've been passing the driving job around a little bit, getting kind of assigning help within the band a little bit. If I have somebody else on the tour, like I did a duo tour with Joel, opening for the Wood Brothers. We had some really long drives because they were on a tour bus. And so we were in a car sort of chasing the bus. It's a classic thing when you're opening shows. And so Joel really stepped in and helped me with some of those longer drives, so that if we were in the car for more than 6 hours, like I had a relief driver and he could really take a big shift.
Yeah.
So asking for help from people is really big. I think for me, one of the big things is just sort of noticing all the different jobs that I do and then trying to get some help with them. Like selling merch it takes a lot of energy because you have to like set it up and then people want to connect with me, but I'm also like, that's $30, and that's like, it's just, the flow is really awkward.
Yes.
Getting right off stage and going to do that. Yes. So,
and you gotta put it into the iPad or whatever.
Yeah. And then I'm looking away and trying. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like the Bluetooth is not working right now, whatever.
Sorry that, like, the song changed your life.
Yeah. It's a really difficult flow for me. So I think for anybody, but especially for me, just that straight off stage into like transactional mode or something. So trying to kind of look ahead and see like, where can I get some help with that? Does the venue have somebody that can help me? And actually the last day I've been looking into this tour I'm going to do. I'm opening for Fruition out on the West Coast. It starts in Portland, Oregon, it ends in LA. So there's a little Pacific Northwest chunk and then basically like a California chunk. And I'm thinking about trying to do as much as I can on the train because I'm traveling totally solo for this. And I'm, as opposed to renting a car, I would fly in between Seattle and the Bay Area, because that's a big chunk in a car that I wouldn't want to do by myself. But I'm just thinking about, I opened some shows for Aoife O'Donovan out in the Pacific Northwest, and she and her whole band and me opening, we all took the train together from Portland to Seattle one day, and it was so fun. We were just like, wow, just wheel my suitcase on, and like there's no it was safe, and you can even check your bag and like put your guitar overhead, and you just kick back, and there's a car where you can buy snacks, and you can get up and stretch, and I actually could look out the window. So I'm just looking into it. It might, that might mean making a few other changes, like trying to book lodging that's more centrally located instead of, sometimes for cost, I'll try to get an Airbnb that's like a half hour outside of town or something. Right. But the rental car can be a really big expense. So this could be interesting. Also for me, I don't really know the geography of the West Coast very well. So I think it would be really fun to kind of I really like sort of having the mental map. Like I feel like I know the East Coast so well. I could just like drive, I could just drive my way anywhere or get to so many venues without, Google Maps. Sure. But it would be kind of fun to be on these trains. So I'm just looking into it. I don't know if it's going to happen.
So it's like you're like hacked, like where you are at this stage in your life with your energy, your safety, with your boundaries, and you're kind of like hacking the system to your advantage.
I'm kind of I'm trying to like have a driver without hiring a driver.
Right.
I'll just be like, train captain, take me there, take me to Sacramento.
I think that'll allow you to like rest.
Yeah, it would allow me.
I think it's exhausting.
Driving is the hardest thing.
Harder for me.
Yeah.
I'm 38.
Yeah.
Because when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was starting to cover stuff around the country, I was like, woohoo, I'll eat anywhere, I'll sleep anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, it's like a thing.
Yeah, it's really hard.
It's like a thing. Just went to like Kansas City or whatever. It's like,
yeah, and it's the only part of my job that is like really life or death. Like being on stage, that's not that scary.
Right. You don't drive at night, do you?
Yes, definitely. You have to sometimes, and sometimes you're really tired and it's like, well, we have to drive 2 hours right now because we have to get to this airport hotel or, the hours that touring musicians drive and the hours we keep are just, the day is so long. So yeah, it's so long.
Please take care of yourself.
So thanks.
You continue to embrace your magic
Thank you.
Let me ask you a little bit about, I think, a really wonderful fellowship, if you will, that you have here in Nashville. And I think that when people write a book about this era of Nashville, and you have like your own mini chapter, it's like this club you have with PD, with Lindsay Liu, with Hannah and Dylan. I think you guys have such a really special thing going. I don't even know like what to name it, but you guys have like a shared spirit. I think you guys have similar values.
Yeah.
Like you guys create art for the same reasons. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with them. It's really special.
Yeah, I do think we've had some really parallel things. Like, so I've known Lindsay for so long, since maybe like 2014 or earlier even. I don't know. Like we met when I was in the Stray Birds. She was Lindsay Liu and the Flat Bellies, touring with PJ and Josh Rilko and this whole other crew of folks. And we were at so many of the same like small folk and small bluegrass festivals, just kind of loving touring and also struggling with touring and struggling with our own sense of self and our relationships with everyone in our band and becoming adults. Yeah, all the stuff. And so just really wrestling with all that and, I'd go and like sit on her porch and we'd have tea and it would just be like big heart-to-heart sessions of, sharing and no, there's no, like, we don't know each other in any kind of like surface industry way. We've never related to each other in that way. It's all just like sister or something, you know? And same with Phoebe. Like, she was in another band for a long time, and then she made her own band, and then her own band sort of scattered and went separate ways, and she's sort of in this kind of third evolution in a way of her creative self. Sure. And so I think just watching her ride those transitions, and Phoebe and I both had day jobs here in Nashville around the same time at one point, when I was working at Starbucks and she was working selling like water purification systems. And so just, I think that our friendship really meant a lot in that kind of dense period of time, because, you know, when you go out and you socialize with your friends who we've all been touring, and especially there's so many musicians here who don't make their living on the road. They're more like working in town, and, you know, songwriters or they've are always holding down a job at a cafe and also writing or something like that. But so much of my initial community in Nashville was touring based.
Sure.
So to step away from touring was really disorienting for me. And so then to have a friend who kind of, you know, like that I was no less of a musician, she was no less of a musician. We were, you know, that felt so important to be able to get together and sing Dolly Parton songs and just... Yeah. And
really special.
So it's really, really special. There's such, I think there's just like a lot of mutual respect, and we kind of see each other. And like Lindsay is just like Lindsay and Phoebe, I mean, they're just like people of the people, you know, like they're so earthy and connected to, like, they will give the time of day to their fans and their listeners, and because they have had nothing handed to them in any kind of like packaged, you know, industry way, like there were no shortcuts for them in what they're doing, and so they really appreciate every single person who is like coming through their musical orbit, and that's not totally uncommon, but I think it is kind of more rare.
Yeah, amazing. And I look forward to, you know, your continued evolutions. Always have people in this town. That's going to be beautiful to see.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Maya. You're going to play a song for us, but let me leave you with this. We talked off camera a little bit about it. You just came back from teaching.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the experience of teaching. I mean, as a singer-songwriter, as a performer, but just kind of like having people that you teach the craft to. Is that something that is super fulfilling to you now, kind of like passing on your gifts? Like, tell me about that experience.
Yeah, super fulfilling. I got to teach at the Ossipee Strings Camp. It's part of the Ossipee Valley Music Festival. It's up in Maine. And so it's a pretty regional event. Most of the people there are coming from kind of greater New England or the Northeast. All ages of people, like teenagers who are, you know, maybe in recent years have decided I can sort of see myself in them as, you know, of like, I remember what that was like when you really kind of want to hang with the adults and you want to be accepted on that level, but you're still in high school or whatever. I can see myself in them. And then, and people who are, you know, they go to music camps as part of their retirement, and like this dream they always had to learn to play the ukulele or learn to play the guitar. And I think a lot of it is like demystifying things that feel like impossible for people, and helping them like, and sometimes it's like sort of just shattering the myth that there is a shortcut. Like, well, the only way that you are going to ever finish a song is to finish a song. It doesn't. And things like using a capo, you know, like the tool that we put on the guitar to, you know, change the key, that and some people have thought, oh, I just thought that I was a bad singer, but I feel my voice feels really calm and at ease if I'm singing in the key of B flat. Who knew? you know, like helping people make those realizations. Like there was a woman in one of my classes who, she has a guitar teacher who is probably from more of a jazz background, maybe, where it's really, really more important to have fluency like up the whole neck of the guitar and all kinds of different chord shapes and things like that.
Right.
But if your goal is to play a song by Townes Van Zandt, you can just learn about 3 chords and put a capo on and find the easiest key for you to sing that in. And so she was like totally her relationship with the guitar was transformed because she suddenly felt like, you know, it's like someone who thought that if they wanted to experience like rock climbing or something, they had to like get into mountaineering and do Everest or something. And she was just like, wow, I could just do this. So I think it's really important to me to make that make those connections for people possible. And I love that opportunity. I don't do it very often. It's like my pace right now is like once every other year I'll spend a week in a teaching environment. Yeah. I'd like it to be maybe once a year. It's very draining to me too, because I do give a lot, like as much as I can. It's kind of 24/7 when I'm in that space. But it's really great.
Well, I mean, thank you, Maya. Thank you for all you do, because
you're welcome.
That you sacrifice not the word sacrifice, that you give your energy and your time, whether it's on stage, here at the Brooklyn Bowl where I've seen you perform, or wherever, or to camps or whatever, Maya, that is very selfless of you, and you're creating a beautiful kind of just like energy wherever you go, and that's one of your greatest gifts. So thank you, Maya.
Thanks for having me. Sure. Okay, I'll sing this one that is kind of it connects me and Phoebe and Lindsay in a way, because I wrote it with Phoebe Hunt, and then Lindsay Liu also made a recording of it on her recent album. So it's called Nothing Else Matters. We were one long night, we were one sweet morning, we were all time. I don't need to live forever to know I'll always love you. I love you. Nothing else matters. We were young and free. We were loud and laughing. We were learning how to see. I don't need to do it over to know that I was living. I'm living. Nothing else matters. If I go too far, if I go too fast, I could break my only heart. I don't need the world to hear me to know that I am singing. I'm singing. Nothing else matters. And if I call your name, if I try too hard, if I give myself away, I don't need to see the sunset to know that we have parted. I'm weeping. Nothing else matters.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here for the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from J-Rod Concert Media.